Have you ever stared at a set of flat-pack furniture instructions or maybe a floor layout for a new room and just felt like you were trying to read some kind of alien language? I mean, you're holding a flat piece of paper, but you're supposed to be visualizing a three-dimensional real-world object, and somehow the two just aren't clicking. Well, you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to this explainer where we are going to crack the blueprint code once and for all, because by the end of our time together, you won't just look at these diagrams, you will literally be able to read them like a book. So let's just quickly run through our Architect's Toolkit for today. We're going to cover 1. The visual basics, 2. The vocabulary, 3. The math mechanics, 4. The application, and 5. The ultimate reality check. All right, part 1. The visual basics. To stop feeling totally lost, we first need to figure out how our vast 3D world is squished down onto a 2D piece of paper. And it really all comes down to perspective. Think about it like this. We've got a perfect contrast between our two main views. On one side, there's the floor plan. Imagine just ripping the roof right off a house and looking straight down at it like a bird flying over. That's your floor plan. It shows you the room layouts, how thick the walls are, and exactly where the doors and windows sit. But then, on the other side, we have the elevation plan. This is your side-on, vertical view from the outside. So if you're standing out in the front yard just staring at the house, you're looking at the front elevation. This is where you can actually see how high the walls are, where the windows sit vertically, and the whole shape of the roofline. You literally cannot build a house with just one of these. You absolutely need both perspectives to get the full picture. Moving right along to part 2, the vocabulary. Now that we've got our angle figured out, we need to read the secret language actually printed on the page. And we do this by going straight to the key or the legend of the plan. What's really fascinating here is how beautifully simple shapes are used to represent physical reality. Take the door symbol, for instance. It's not just a flat line. It actually includes this little quarter circle arc, and that arc is genius because it perfectly maps out the exact path the door sweeps through when you open it, so you instantly know if that door is going to bash right into your brand new bed. A window, that's just shown as a break in the solid wall line filled in with some thin parallel lines. A built-in cupboard is essentially a rectangle stuck against a wall, often labeled BIC, and a staircase is drawn as a series of parallel lines across a rectangle, complete with a super important arrow pointing in the direction you'd walk up. Once you know this visual vocabulary, the whole diagram just becomes perfectly clear. But wait, before we even think about measuring a single wall or moving a piece of furniture, we have to look for the north indicator. This is usually just an arrow pointing north somewhere on the page. We use it as our ultimate compass to orient the building in reality. It tells us exactly how the structure sits on its physical site, and that is absolutely crucial if, you want to figure out which of your windows are actually going to catch that nice morning sunlight. Okay, part 3, the math mechanics. We've got the views down, we know the symbols. Now let's get into the mathematical engine that makes all these drawings actually relate to the real world, and that is scale. So scale is essentially a fixed ratio between the length you see on the plan and the matching length on the actual real-life object. So if you see a scale like 1 to 50, it simply means that one single unit on your piece of paper represents 50 of that exact same unit out in the real world. Measure 1 centimeter on the page, and you know it represents 50 centimeters in the actual room. It is a direct, unbreakable mathematical link. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the scale factor is your multiplier. So in a 1 to 50 scale, 50 is your scale factor. But, and this is a big but, watch out, because a trap people fall into all the time is accidentally flipping this ratio around. Just always remember, the plan number comes first, the real world number comes second. You multiply your measurement by that second number to find the real world size. Let's say you're trying to figure out if a massive king-size bed is going to fit in a new room layout. You don't just guess, you follow this completely foolproof 3-step method. Step 1, take your ruler and measure the length on the plan in millimeters. Step 2, take that number and multiply it by your scale factor. And Step 3, convert that huge clunky number of millimeters into a sensible unit, usually meters, just by dividing by 1,000. It's really that simple. Measure, multiply, convert. That's your golden rule right there. Let's actually see this formula in action. Say you grab your ruler, measure a wall on your floor plan, and it comes out to 84 millimeters long. You double-check the legend, and the scale is 1 to 100. So you take your 84 millimeters, multiply it by that scale factor of 100, and you get 8,400 millimeters. Divide that by 1,000 to make it readable, and boom! You've just found out you have an 8.4-meter wall. The math effortlessly blows up a tiny little ink line into a massive, real-world structure. Part 4. The application.
Knowing how to read a plan is fantastic, but actually creating one? That's where the real magic happens. So it's time to put on our hard hats and apply everything we've just learned by drawing our own scaled floor plan.
Let's walk through how this builds step by step. First, obviously, you need to write down the actual dimensions of the real room. Second, you pick a scale and convert all those real-world measurements down to paper-sized dimensions using division. Now really pay attention to step 3, working in one consistent unit like millimeters. This is a massive pro tip to avoid annoying rounding errors on tiny things like door frames. Don't go mixing up centimeters and millimeters, just pick millimeters and stick with it. Fourth, draw your outer walls first to give yourself a frame and then fill in the internal features. Finally, step 5, make it look professional. Add your scale statement, label everything clearly, and don't forget that north indicator.
But wait, how do you even know which scale to pick in the first place? Well, selecting a scale is basically a balancing act. On one hand, you have to make sure your 6-meter bedroom doesn't run right off the edge of your tiny piece of paper. But on the flip side, if the scale is too small, your drawing becomes a nightmare to read. The best trick here is to just test out round scales, things like 1 to 50 or 1 to 100, against the actual space on your paper before you commit and start drawing.
Okay, so you've done all the measuring, you've crunched the numbers, and you've mapped out your plan. But before you go out and buy a single piece of furniture or lay a single brick, we have to pause. We need to ask ourselves the most important question in this entire explainer to save ourselves from a total disaster. Which brings us to part 5, the ultimate reality check. This step isn't about advanced calculus or anything. It is purely about using basic common sense to catch silly math mistakes. Let's play out a quick scenario together. Imagine we're looking at a super professional front elevation plan, and the scale stated on the page is 1 to 50. We take our trusty ruler, measure the height of the front door right there on the paper, and it comes out to exactly 20 millimeters.
All right, so we follow our golden rule. We multiply our 20-millimeter measurement by our scale factor, which is 50. That gives us 1,000 millimeters. We divide by 1,000 to convert it into meters, and we get exactly 1 meter. The math is totally flawless. But hold on, does a 1-meter high door actually seem right to you?
No way, right? A standard door is, about 2.1 meters high? So our calculated 1-meter door is completely ridiculous. I mean, unless you're building a house for hobbits, a 1-meter door is a massive red flag. It instantly tells us that either our paper measurement was wrong, the printed scale is completely off, or maybe we just accidentally measured a window instead of the main entrance.
These kind of physical impossibilities are actually your best friends when you're double-checking your work. If your math tells you that you've got a door that's 1.8 meters wide, or a ceiling that's only 1.2 meters high where you'd literally be crawling, or a standard bedroom the length of a 20-meter bowling alley, it is a huge warning sign that your units or your scale factor got mixed up along the way. You always have to check your final numbers against the actual physical reality of the world.
And there you go. You have officially gone from staring at a confusing jumble of flat lines to totally getting the visual basics, speaking the vocabulary, running the math mechanics, and doing that all-important reality check. You've got the architect's toolkit firmly in your grasp now. So the next time you look at a floor plan or even a flat-pack furniture manual, are you just going to see random lines on a page, or will you see the hidden real-world dimensions just waiting to be decoded?